Hey guys, it's Grand Admiral Thrawn, and I'm back with another video where I get to talk about my favorite show of all time, Bob's Burgers. And even better, I get to talk about some of my favorite episodes from this show, their Christmas episodes. Now, if you've watched my channel, I've already done a ranking of the Thanksgiving episodes, a ranking of the Halloween episodes, but by far, this ranking of all the Christmas episodes was the hardest one I've ever done. I have 15 episodes on this list, and there will be spoilers for all 15 of them up to season 15. So if you haven't seen those, I suggest you get off now. And real quick, I know this may seem a bit hypocritical. I don't have the Die Hard play one on here because I even think Die Hard is a Christmas movie. I don't actually think this episode is a Christmas episode because the episode isn't Christmas, but it does something about a movie that is Christmassy. But anyway, I don't want to stall you long, so let's get into this ranking of all of 15 Bob's Burgers Christmas episodes. I love all 15 of them. There isn't a single bad one. Honestly, I think I could swap out these episodes into a different ranking depending on the day, apart from the first three. I think those three are set in stone. But anyway, in 15th place, I have Season 11, Episode 12. Now, this episode isn't actually an official Christmas episode for the show, but I included it on this list because I think it has the feeling of a Christmas episode. And the plot revolves around something Christmassy, even though it takes place after Christmas in like January when the Belchers have not taken their Christmas card, and so they are trying to get a perfect Christmas card. And this episode is a lot of fun. It's got funny moments. It's about the family going on a trip, which is always a great episode. I just really like how they're trying to make a perfect family photo. That's been done before on episodes, but this one somehow made it unique. And I like it for that, okay? This is just a fun Christmas episode that's not even a Christmas episode. And even though it's in last, it still counts as a Christmas one, and it's definitely a really good one. Number 14. Now, this episode, I don't know why. I must have been crazy, but season 5 episode Nicecapades, I actually didn't like this episode the first time I watched it. I know, I was crazy. But I rewatched it a couple years ago, and since then I've actually come around on this episode and I really like it. It's funny. I don't know what I was thinking the first time I watched it. I like the idea of the kids trying to prove to a mall Santa that they are good kids. I like what the whole show they do. I like all the characters that show up to help them with it, like Teddy's hockey team, Mr. Fishoder. I even like the Santa in it. And I just like all these jokes. There's a hysterical joke about Bob trying to get a gift for some kid he doesn't know, and he gets the kid calendars. It is hysterical. Just this episode, I don't know what I was thinking. Season 5, Nicecapades, is definitely a good episode. I was insane for not liking it. I'm so glad that I gave it another chance. Although it's still in 14th place because I haven't seen it as many times. I'm sure if I watch it a couple more, I'll like it more. But yeah, number 14, Nicecapades. Number 13, the newest episode of Bob's Burgers, Season 15, Dog Christmas Day Afternoon. Now, I don't know how this episode is actually a Christmas episode because it's more about them trying to save a dog, and somehow it still has the feeling of a Christmas episode because they make it work where the Belchers are not having a good Christmas, so they decide to go look at some lights, and then Gene accidentally feeds a dog chocolate. So now they have to go and stop that and get that dog to throw up. And I do have one big issue with this episode, actually, and that's that they've already driven Mort's hearse before, so I don't know why they're acting weird about driving it in this one. There's a whole episode where they borrow his car, so I don't know why they're acting weird in this one. This is the newest episode, so maybe if I watch it a few more times, it'll go up more. But honestly, I really liked this one. I don't know how they pulled it off on making this feel like a Christmas episode, but they did it. Number 12, Season twelve's Gene Christmas Break. This is actually a really good episode, and it's the only Christmas episode from the perspective of Gene. And yeah, I actually really like this one because it's about a Christmas song that Gene has on a record, and then he breaks the record accidentally and is spending the whole episode trying to get a new record of it. And in this episode, we get Courtney and her father, who are both great supporting characters. I liked seeing them in this one. They were funny. This whole episode is honestly pretty funny. The songs that were on the record are pretty funny when the family is recreating them. And I just really like this episode. It's a good Gene episode. It's wild. It's a Christmas episode. I like it, okay? It's pretty weird, yes, but it's still a really good Christmas episode for Bob's Burgers. Number 11, Season 5's Father of the Bob. Now, this is an amazing episode, and the only reason why I have it so low on the list is because it doesn't really do too much Christmassy with it. It does plenty to justify it being a Christmas episode. It just doesn't do as much as the other ones. Like, if this one just felt more like a Christmas one, it would definitely be higher. It goes more into the actual father-son dynamic of Bob and his father than it does Christmas, which I'm fine with because the episode is great. It's just that because of that, it falls short on this ranking. But yeah, this episode is great because in Season 1, Episode 2, we get to meet Linda's parents. That is the second episode of the whole show. It takes them 4 more seasons till we finally meet Bob's dad. And I actually really like Big Bob and his interactions with Bob. They're funny on how Bob can't stand how his dad is always criticizing him. I like all that. I like getting to see more of Bob's childhood. And I really like the Baby You Can Chive My Car burger. That is one of my favorite burgers they've made in the whole show. I really like that one. I like all the people in Big Bob's Diner. This is just a really good Christmas episode. And the only reason I have it so low is because it doesn't do as much with Christmas. The kids have a fun B-plot where they didn't get Bob anything for Christmas, so they're trying to get him a gift. And if this one just did a little more Christmassy, it would definitely be higher. But yeah, I really like this one. Alrighty. Number 10, Season 11's Yachty or Nice. Now, this is a Christmas episode that is unique because okay, there's one other one, but this one is actually the only one where Jimmy Pesto has a major role in it. And this one revolves around the Belchers at a yacht Christmas party as a catering thing, and the kids want to skip work because there's a Santa who's going to be giving away all these gifts. P.S. I love the fact that Teddy is Santa in this one. I don't know why I didn't include a picture of him as Santa. I just forgot. Anyway, both of those plots are amazing in this episode. I like the kids trying to get presents one. I like Bob and Jimmy Pesto's rivalry. And I just really like this one. And it has a heartwarming ending with Teddy as Santa. P.S. Gus is in this one, and I really like Gus. He's a great character who reoccurs on the show sometimes. But yeah, this one's a really funny episode. I like how it shows more of the running gag that Linda is obsessed with the mayor. And I just like this episode. It's a really creative yacht episode about Christmas. And yeah, that's about all I have to say here. Moving on. Number 9, Season 10's Have Yourself a Maily Linda Christmas. This episode is actually a really good one because it's also the only Christmas episode to include Aunt Gail, which is kind of a crime because she's a great character on the show. Anyway, so Linda becomes a volunteer mail helper, and there's a package that's not going to be delivered, so she decides to go rogue and deliver it herself, and I really like that. Meanwhile, Bob and Tina have to deal with Linda's parents and Gail, which is great because Bob and her parents are always great to see, and Gail is great in it. Louise and Jean want to get Tina something for their Secret Santa, and it just balances all 3 of these plot lines very well in this episode. There's plenty of funny jokes, And what I think might be my favorite thing about this episode is the creepy Santa doll that Linda has in this episode. How that doll, if you pay attention to the other Christmas episodes, the ones after this, it reappears in them. And it might have even been in some of the ones before this one. So I really like that, how they include the creepy Santa in the background of the other ones. But I just really like this Christmas episode. It's funny. Mike the mailman is in it, and a pretty big part in the episode considering it's about mail. And it's just a really fun Christmas episode for the show. It's got a lot of great jokes, but it's a shame that Gail is only in one Christmas episode. The Ottoman story is very funny in this one. I just really like this episode. Number 8, Christmas in the Car, the second Christmas episode they ever did. And this one is where I realized something. Every Christmas episode, at least for the most part, introduces a new character, and they're always a great character. Most of the time. Sometimes they don't, they just use other characters. But for example, in this episode, I love Bobcat Goldthwait's character. And I just love the idea of how the Belchers have to go out on Christmas Eve to get a Christmas tree because they kept getting one too early and it dried up and died. So anyway, they go out on Christmas Eve and they get stuck in their car, and they also irritate a giant candy cane truck driver, and so they have to deal with that. And it's just a very funny episode. The whole Dutch baby scene is funny. Just this whole episode is full of funny things. And I love how nobody believes Bob, even though he is completely in the right in this episode. It's very funny. There's a bunch of funny jokes. And for the second Christmas episode, this one holds up very well. Anyway, I think this is a great episode, and it might honestly be better than number 8, but this is where I decided to put it. Number 7, The Flight Before Christmas. This episode is the most emotional episode of all the Christmas episodes, and it might actually be one of the most emotional Bob's Burgers episodes entirely. And that's where Bob's Burgers actually differs from most adult animated shows. Sure, The Simpsons was emotional, but Bob's Burgers is always emotional and funny at the same time and character driven. I do like other adult animated shows, but this one actually sticks to the emotion and doesn't just occasionally do it. Almost always this show is emotional. And this episode is really emotional where all 3 kids have a Christmas thing going on. And since there's only 2 parents, one of them is going to have nobody there for them. And that person is Louise, the one time when she actually was serious and made an emotional thing. And I actually really like this episode. It's emotional, it still tries to be funny and fun, and it's got a lot of heart and humor in it. I like Jean's thing, I like Tina's thing, I like Louise's thing, I like Linda and Bob's thing. I like everybody's thing going on in this episode. And I like how Tina is the one who shows up at Louise's thing and left her own to be there for her sister. It's just a very emotional episode and a very good Christmas episode. I highly recommend you check this one out. Actually, I recommend you check them all out, but I recommend this one specifically right now. Number 6, the second newest episode of the show, Season 14's The Nightmare 2 Days Before Christmas. This one is hysterical. It's where the Belchers have to go to one of Mr. Fischoder's properties for Christmas, and it's just a lot of fun. There's a bunch of things that happen in this one, and it's just really funny and fun, where they lose their Christmas tree that they were bringing with them, so Linda's going out looking for that. The kids are trying to build their own Christmas tree, and Bob has to take care of this house they're staying in. And there's this really creepy painting of a bunny, of a rabbit being torn apart by hawks. And it's just funny. The whole episode is funny. It's fun. It's a great Christmas thing to watch with your family. And just every character is fun to follow in this episode. It's all fun. And I really like this one. It's very close to making the top 5, but it just missed it. Oh well, but anyway, all of the plot lines are funny, and it just wraps it all up very nicely in a heartfelt way, with the kids building their own Christmas tree. All right, number 5. Now, this one has a problem in that the main plot line is more of just a winter break plot line than an actual Christmas one. However, the episode makes up for that by having a B plot that is so good, it's worthy of being its own episode, but it still gets plenty of time in this one, enough so that it actually is just like, well, it's great, okay? It works out for the best. Anyway, so Better Off Sled, season 9's Christmas episode, revolves around the kids wanting to go sledding, but a bunch of bullies, Logan being the main one, won't let them because they're having a snowball fight. Meanwhile, Linda and Bob are knitting scarves, and Bob is actually amazing at knitting, but Linda is not as good as him. And I just actually really like how that happens in this episode. It's an amazing Christmas episode that's full of a bunch of funny moments from both plot lines, like using ice balls as snowballs. Manatary Napkin, or Mandy, Rudy's cousin, is an amazing character. I like her in this one, and I just really like this episode. It's very fun and a lot of fun to have with your family when you watch this one. And it's just a really funny Christmas episode that more than makes up for how the A plot is meant to be like a winter break one more than a Christmas one. All right, we're finally here at the big 4. All right, number 4, season 3's Bob Rest Ye Merry Gentle Mannequins. This was the very first Bob's Burgers Christmas episode, and it more than holds up. This one revolves around a crazy man, or maybe he's not crazy, they never actually say, staying with them, who believes he used to be a mannequin, and now he's built this whole setup every day before Christmas to get some more business for them to pay them back. And this episode is just, it's so crazy that it's fun. It's like that. I don't know how this show pulls it off, but it does. It's in a believable way and a great way. There are so many laughs. Zach Galifianakis is in it as the main guy. The new guy, Chet. I couldn't think of his name for a second. And Nadine, who was his mannequin lover, who he believes. This one's just very fun. It introduces us to Sal, the sex shop owner. This is just a really funny episode, and it's just so much fun. I like actually seeing all those creative displays out inside of the restaurant. And this one's just a lot of fun. And being the very first Christmas episode they ever did, this one holds up amazingly. Alrighty, so you finally made it to the top 3. Alrighty, I forgot to include what number this one is. Okay, so number 3, I don't know why I put number 2 here. This is number 3. Season 8's The Bleakening Part 2. I was actually debating on whether this one was number 3 or number 2 because I really like this one a lot, okay? The Bleakening Part 2 is amazing because it follows up and concludes Part 1 in such a great way. It involves a Krampus knockoff. It involves a party that is about being hidden from the police. It involves Teddy hiding in an inflatable Santa. And just all these great things. The kids sneaking out in the middle of the night on Christmas to go find the Bleakin. And Linda's ornaments. This one is just so great, and it connects to the Part 1 so well. I really don't have much to say about Part 2 because I haven't spoken about Part 1 yet. So it's really hard for me to talk about this one. But this one is amazing. It concludes Part 1 in an amazing way. I really recommend this episode to you. All right. Number 2. Season 7's The Last Gingerbread House on the Left. I love this episode. Season 7 always makes the top 3 on this, on all 3 of my rankings. I've noticed that it is always high on here, and that's just because season 7 is great. I love the fact that Mr. Fischoeder has this group of all these old, really creative characters who every year spend their Christmases making gingerbread houses together. It's such a great idea, and like I love the fact that these characters come back in other episodes. Okay? My favorite has probably got to be Frackin' Brown because of his weird eyebrow. I love that Bob is great at building gingerbread houses. And just this episode is really funny and creative with that. And I haven't even mentioned the B plot where it's Linda, Teddy, and the kids going caroling. That one's great. But the A plot of this episode is fantastic. It's probably it is the funniest one there is. Okay, apart from maybe number one. But seriously, this one is so great. I like each one of those characters in the gingerbread house building contest. I like all the jokes in this one. This one's very funny. One of my favorites is probably how this guy was hiding a shotgun, and Bob asks where he was keeping that, and he says, well, let's just say I have a very high butt crack. Okay, this whole episode is fun and funny. And it was very close on if this one would be number one or number two. But ultimately, there's only one episode that can take the spot of number one. Season 8's The Bleakening Part 1. This episode is perfect. It introduces us to the party, and it sets up episode Part 2 perfectly. It is a mystery at one point. It's a Christmas party at one point. It's about the kids preparing to fight a discount Krampus at one point. It is just such a great episode, and it handles all these perfectly. Out of all the two-parter ones, out of all the episodes, I'm so glad this is the only two-part one. It starts with Linda wanting to throw an amazing Christmas party, so she cuts the top off their Christmas tree. Then they have the party, and the party is fun. We get all these great characters there. And then the tree goes missing, so her and Bob are investigating, seeing who stole the tree. And I love the way how they investigate everyone. When they're investigating Jimmy Pesto, it's funny. When they're investigating Harold and Edith, it's funny. When they're investigating this episode's new character, Art, it is hysterical because he's a naked artist. And it's just very funny. The whole episode is hysterical. And I'm really glad Season 8 was a two-parter. Anyway, this is Grand Admiral Thrawn signing off. I loved ranking all the holiday episodes of this show because this is my favorite show. And I'm so glad that every one of their Christmas episodes is great. I want to know what your favorite Christmas episode is. If you want, you can even rank all 15 of these in the comments. All right, anyway, this is Grand Admiral Thrawn signing off. I look forward to our next encounter in my next video. And if you haven't even seen Bob's Burgers, but you watched this video because you love my channel, I recommend you check it out.